Welcome back to
Woo-hoo!
128 KB News, and yes, this is also backed by the lack of popular demand.
Yes.
In this week's quick bit of news, Nintendo finally released a horror game.
What?
PlayStation are rolling in the cash.
Yeah.
And Xbox have done us a dirty.
Oh,
Yes. And I guess we just jumped straight in
I think
with
we do.
Nintendo
yes.
doing an 18-plus horror game.
What is going on? I saw this pop up on my phone on Twitter. Just pop up from Nintendo saying, "Who is?" What did it say? I think it says, "Who is Emio?" Is that
Emio, yeah.
Emio? It's not Elmo,
Emio.
like I thought it was. Emio.
Elmo would make a great horror game, though.
It really would. But Emio, Elmo. And I went, what's this? Clicked on it, opened the YouTube link. There's no description. It just says, who is Emio or Elmio, whatever. Right? And then it's just like 10, 15 seconds of a guy in a suit or whatever with a bag over his head with a smiley face, and it says 18 plus, and at the beginning on the UK video it said like some of these images may be disturbing or something.
Maybe disturbing.
Yeah. And then it goes into like a flittering like classic horror movie vibe.
Yeah.
With the dude stood there with a bag on his head. And I mean, it's funny because it translates the text translates to the smiling man or something like that. I read online.
Oh, weird.
But it's really funny because Smile 2, the horror movie, which is all about smiling, is coming out in cinemas very soon. So
it's firstly, from the little teaser and how they've kind of packaged up, it looks like it could be quite cool.
I think I'm super hyped. Like,
yeah, and I know for you're like really into horror games as well, so it's right up your street. I think the kind of notable thing for it kind of being newsworthy is the fact that it's Nintendo publishing a horror game.
Yeah, is this
an
like
18 plus only game?
Yeah, is this like an actual Nintendo IP? Is this something new for them that they'll continue into the Switch too? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, maybe it's their way of appealing to more like adult gamers to try and draw them in. Like, I don't know.
All of those things could be true. We do know that Nintendo are kind of broadening their scope more when they're allowing more third-party developers in. Going to see Call of Duty in the future. So maybe this is part of their kind of broader strategy of bringing in more kind of classic gamers and less of that kind of family thing. Either way, I'm there for it.
Oh, I'm 100% there. There was no information on like developers or anything. It was just 15 seconds. Bam! Who is Elmo? And it was Elmo. And then it was the same on the Twitter. There's a Japanese page on their website. So on the like Nintendo Japan, there's actually like a who is or where is Wally, whatever, and it's just the guy like with his face.
But we're available to help you, with your marketing too, if you want to sponsor us.
But I'm really hyped by this. It's surprising. Yeah. Bring it on.
Yeah, totally there. Okay, so let's move on to PlayStation Land. And apparently they are the Rothschilds of gaming and are absolutely rolling in cash. It has been announced in their kind of like business, everyone in suits talking about champagne and caviar, that the PlayStation 5 has in just 3 years become the most profitable PlayStation generation of them all.
That's mad.
Let me give you some of the numbers because they don't make sense.
Do it. Give it to me.
In the 3 years of the PS5 generation, they have sold $106 billion worth of sales, and that has generated $10 billion of profit. So the profit part is the biggest ever. The sales, they're only a $1 billion short of the PS4 generation, which was obviously 7 years long.
Yeah.
The numbers are staggering.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely
insane.
Ridiculous.
I mean, there's some kind of missed part of the news in this is that the way that these companies talk about their revenue is everything in that generation. So once the PS5 was released, they kind of put a bracket around and say, this is now the PS5 generation.
Yeah.
A large amount of those sales are going to be games and are going to be third-party accessories like the Portal and the PSVR and all that. But there are also going to be PS4 titles and software in that.
What about PS4 systems? Do you reckon they're lumbered into the same?
Yes, I would imagine so. I think it's literally everything from once the PS5 was released is the PS5 generation.
Yeah.
So they've done $106 billion of sales in that time, in those 3 years, which is only $1 billion short of the entire PS4 generation.
Yeah, that's insane, isn't it?
To put it into context as well of how kind of staggering that number is, the $10 billion of profit in 3 years, in the Nintendo Switch generation so far, and over 7 years that's been now.
50?
It feels like it.
It feels like 50 years.
The Nintendo Switch generation, up until I think it was May this year, had done $17 billion of profit, which is staggering in itself. And we know that that's sold 140 odd million, whatever the stupid number is of consoles. So it's been huge for Nintendo. But on that trajectory, the PlayStation 5 generation, once it comes to its 7th year, will have overtaken the Switch in its profitability.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's madness.
It's madness. We all know that Sony are the big boys.
Yeah.
They sell whatever. And this is all despite the huge shortages of PS5s at launch. It was 2 years before most people could get one.
They made up with it by selling like £400 like accessories.
Have a controller. It's just £200.
Yeah,
okay.
VR, £10 million. Lossless earbuds, or whatever,
Lossless earbuds. Yes. Anyway, that's enough of the money.
Yes.
And then on to the money.
The money shot.
Xbox have done us day. This is the meaty story that I want to really focus on this week.
I'm so confused.
I just don't. Well, I do and I don't understand it.
Yeah.
To catch you up, Game Pass is finally having its price hike, but beyond the price hike, they've managed to make it more confusing for everyone by adding a whole load of different tiers, getting rid of some, introducing others. And now the whole slogan, as Tom Warren put it, who's the editor of Verge, Microsoft's whole play it day one on Game Pass message gets a little bit confusing because it's not the case anymore.
If you're new into this, or just like a light user, or if you're a parent trying to like get it for your kid, what is going on?
And so there's two real problems with this story. It's first, obviously, it's the price increase, and we'll come to that second because it's a bit of a dirty one. But second is that thing about confusing messaging. We've talked about this at length in our podcast, that one of the reasons why Xbox is so far behind PlayStation in popularity is that they're always a little bit confusing in their messaging. Who's this console for? What generation does it sit in? It's not as clear as the PlayStation 2, 3, 4. They make it a little bit too confusing.
They seem to dart around and change their perspective a little bit. They're like, we're going this way, and then all of a sudden they like turn and then change direction. It is very confusing, and this is still confusing.
So now I think this comes into force in September. It's actually been rolled out. But in September, there will technically be 5 different options for Game Pass whilst this transition's happening.
5.
So to catch you up, priced in American dollars, you have Xbox Game Pass Core, which will be $9.99 a month, and you don't have access to day one games.
No.
There'll be PC Game Pass, which will be $11.99, and you do have access to day one games. There'll be Xbox Game Pass for console for existing subscribers only. That'll be $10.99 with day one games. Then there'll be Xbox Game Pass Standard for new subscribers, and that's going to replace the for console eventually. That'll be $14.99, but no day one games. And then you'll have Game Pass Ultimate, which will be $19.99, and you will have day one games. Now, Tom even put in his tweet when he was putting it out, I've had to edit this tweet 5 times and I'm still confused.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it is confusing though. Yeah. And people in the comments were going, correction. And then they were correcting with misinformation because it was like even more confusing.
No, you've even got that wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
It just, like we've said, it adds into that narrative that Xbox just make their messaging a bit confusing, a bit muddled. Really, just make it simple. Why not just have one tier? One tier for console, one tier for PC.
I get it though. I agree with the 2-tier thing, but because there's PC, it then becomes confusing. Like, I understand Core makes sense, that they released last year. Core makes sense. Entry level, gives you online services, gives you some Game Pass games, not day one. Like, it just gives you a taster of it. And that's the base tier. Then now you'll have pretty much the PC version, and then you are getting everything on there essentially, with day one. Then you'll be having Game Pass Standard, which is your entry into it, no day one, and then there's Ultimate that gives you the PC side and everything. It's just a bit of a mess, isn't it?
To add into this kind of mess, obviously you now have Game Pass available on Amazon Fire TV sticks as well, which is kind of cool to see. You can stream games off your Fire TV stick if you can connect your controller to it. If you've got a controller that will support that. That's kind of cool. I'm not sure what Game Pass level you need to do that. that's not clear. So that's another layer of slight confusion. But that's not the big part of this. That's just kind of more for the narrative of where I personally think Xbox get it wrong.
Yes.
The narrative of feeling like they've done us dirty is they dangled this beautiful carrot, and we were huge advocates for it, of all these games available on Game Pass.
Yeah.
And then all of our new AAA releases from all these studios that we've bought out will be day one Game Pass. And they've got, Black Ops is going to be day one Game Pass. Indiana Jones, Avowed, Fable. You're like, what?
Yeah.
That Xbox Developer Direct that happened a few weeks ago was like a Game Pass dream.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, this is amazing. What, for this small subscription, I've got all these games.
Absolutely.
And we even said, how long until the price increase? Because there's no way that can make sense.
We said it's like a passing comment, or maybe not even on camera. Like, we definitely discussed it, and then we just kind of put it to the side, didn't think anything about it until now, when it's like, there's clearly going to be, they need to recoup some of this cost, so they're going to bump the prices up.
And to be fair, the prices aren't, at least in the UK and the US, they're not crazy increases.
Yes,
it's not gonna make me cancel my subscription.
No.
If you are a casual user or an occasional player, I think it might make you cancel your subscription.
Possibly.
I'm sure there's going to be some like people that've got it and maybe play once a month and go, do you know what, this isn't worth it. I'll just buy the game when I want it.
Yes.
So in the UK, in pounds, Game Pass Ultimate, which is where I'm basing this off because it's my current subscription, is $12.99 currently.
Yeah.
That's going to rise to $14.99.
Yeah. So £3
That's
increase.
About £3 increase. It's about a 15% price rise, which is quite a hike. But I'm aware that there's a lot of games that I want to play that I'm not necessarily sure if I want to buy.
Yeah.
That will get that.
And again, think of the savings really. If you were to buy every game that's coming day one, at 70 quid a go, let's say, if that's 10 games, that's a lot of money.
You'd be saving money. Where I think they've really done it dirty is that this price increase isn't applied equally around the world.
Yeah, that's
so the UK.
unfair,
So like I'm saying, the UK is about a 15% increase. In the US, it goes from $16.99 to $19.99 in dollars. That's about 17%. So you go, okay, so they're basing it with round numbers around that 15 to maybe 20% tops.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking at the Tom Warren's article when this broke, and then I always like to look at the comments to see what kind of community feedback from this is. Overwhelmingly negative. Some people in support for the narrative you put. If you play all the games, it's definitely worth it.
Yes.
And then as one person said, that's fine for you to say in the Northern Hemisphere, but for us in New Zealand, this is around a 30% increase. I was like, what? And sure enough, the price list that they've released, it shows you every territory and what the price was for all the levels and what it will be. In New Zealand, it was $21.95. It's going up to $28.95, which is a 32% increase.
That's ridiculous, isn't it? That's insane.
I mean, what would the equivalent be in the UK? So if it was a 4.812, there'll be a £4 increase if it was in the UK. So it would have gone up to £17. That's, if we're trying to find parities. It's a big hike. And it's enough to make, again, those casual users, it's enough to make them question it. They're trying to strike a balance. I get it. Huge investment in IP, buying these studios. A huge loss in revenue by making like Black Ops available day one when it releases. I get it. So they need to strike a balance, but I don't know how negative this is going to be.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a topic for discussion in the podcast, perhaps.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because the other thing as well is, like, they don't know whether a game is going to succeed or not. So Hellblade 2, I'm pretty sure, did really appalling sales, really. And that was a big push for Microsoft. And so if there's games like that maybe underperform, they're going to need to try and recoup some of their costs back, and
Starfield's a good example as well. I think the amount of negativity that got at release put off a lot of people from jumping into it. So that there's obviously risks involved, and conversely there's risks involved with people that, and Call of Duty is going to have the biggest download base from all the games they've announced. Maybe Indiana Jones up there as well. When you've got those huge titles that would be generating a lot of ticket sales from either from their store at full price for them or from retailers, they're losing out on that. It's difficult. How sustainable this model is the big question that I have, and I'm not sure how it is, and it clearly they're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just going to be time to see, isn't it? Like, will Xbox Game Pass really work over time? Do you know what I mean? Like, will they recoup enough money, or are we going to see price hike, or is it just going to revert and stuff's not going to be day one anymore? You know.
And one of the questions that I'd put to you just before I kind of round it up: what is the cap price for most people on this?
Yeah, exactly.
What is it? Because it's already more expensive now than the PlayStation Plus Premium tier.
Yeah.
Obviously, you are getting more than you're getting from the PlayStation Plus because you're getting all those day one releases.
Yeah, totally.
But if they start scaling back on the day ones, if they start bumping the price up even more, if it gets to, in the UK, if it gets close to £20, is that too much?
Yeah,
I'd argue it probably is.
I would say that's the limit. That's got to be the top end, you know, and then you'll still see a decline in subscriptions.
You will.
But where it's sat now for us in the UK and probably in the US as well, I think is acceptable. I was expecting it, and I think that's okay. You know, you've got time now until, when was it? September. Just rack up your accounts. Do you know what I mean? Like, buy up. You get like a year backlog worth now. Now you're paying the earlier price.
If I was you guys, I'd get on CD keys and start getting some codes.
It's not what I'm doing.
Start racking them up. We won't be doing the same. I don't know. I'd love to know what you guys think about this. What you think about the price hike. Are you going to keep your subscription if you've got it, or is it too much now? And what you think about us being back on 128KB News. It's great to be back.
Yes, it has been great to be back. Yes, and we'll be back again.
We will be back again. Hopefully we'll do this kind of once a week, kind of round up the big stories of the week and put them out for you. Make sure you're down in the comments, letting us know what you think. And while you're down there rummaging around, like the video and subscribe to the channel too.
Indeed. And if you miss our faces and want to see more of us, then check out the podcast channel as well.
Yes. And the video will pop up between our faces before we go.
Indeed.
So leaves nothing else but to say bye.
Bye.